Rodney Reed has always maintained his innocence, yet a jury found him guilty of murdering Stacey Stites. Now, in a Crime Watch Daily exclusive, we interview one of those jurors who put Rodney on death row, and she says if she'd known then what she knows now, her decision would have been very different. Convicted killer Rodney Reed's date with death is on hold. An appellate court stayed his execution indefinitely pending a review of new evidence in the murder of Stacey Stites. KXAN investigative reporter David Bearer is intently following the case.
What do you think as far as his innocence, guilt, or is it unclear?
I can't be sure, but I think that the amount of evidence that the defense team has brought, a lot of people believe it warrants a retrial for Reed.
In court papers, Rodney alleges Stacey's own fiancé, Jimmy Fennell, might be the killer, even though he was long ago ruled out as a suspect. His attorneys say the existing evidence raises a healthy suspicion that Jimmy Fennell and not Mr. Reed committed the murder.
They're still trying to kill me for something I had nothing to do with.
But the state of Texas says there is no dispute. Rodney Reed is the killer.
How do you respond to people who say that Rodney Reed did not kill Stacey Stites?
That they need to read the evidence, read the file, look at the evidence, because it speaks for itself. And none of the evidence that has developed since trial has led us away from that conclusion that he is guilty of this crime.
What about the secret affair?
I'm glad you asked about this secret affair, and I'm going to put it in air quotes, because that's really what it was. She was 18 days away from her wedding. She was obsessed with marrying Jimmy Fennell.
This juror voted to send Rodney Reed to death row, but she now says she has regrets.
I have questions now about whether Rodney was really guilty.
It's a stunning claim you'll see only on Crime Watch Daily. She wonders, did she convict the wrong man? Or hiding her identity for her safety?
I voted guilty. I stand by the decision because I made it based on the evidence that was presented and what I knew at the time. Since then, there have been a lot of things that I've learned in that 20 years or heard about that have made me wonder if Rodney was framed.
No one is a bigger champion of Rodney's innocence than his brother Roderick, who supports his brother's claim that Rodney was in a consensual sexual relationship with Stacey.
Rodney first told me about the relationship. He told me he was seeing this girl, and he said he think that might be the one. And he said there was only one hitch. He said she's, engaged to this police officer.
Roderick says his brother Rodney told him Fennell threatened him when he found out.
Rodney was threatened by Jimmy Fennell, saying that if he continued to see his fiancée, that he would kill him.
And Rodney is getting support from an unlikely source.
I came to a conclusion that was not expected.
That's Heather Staubs, Stacey's first cousin. She claims after she changed her mind about Rodney's guilt, her family cut her off.
As far as my aunt and my cousins are concerned, I've been kicked out of the family, and they don't want anything to do with me. And how would I feel if what was done to Stacey was done to my daughter, and Rodney's a horrible person, and just on and on.
But Stacey's sisters say Heather is just looking for her 15 minutes of fame.
She never even came to the trial.
She was never at the trial. We haven't
Why
seen
is
her.
it so
in
important to her now? We haven't seen her in many years, and now it's important for her to save Rodney Reed?
Saving Rodney Reed is the full-time job of his attorney, Bryce Benjay, from the Innocence Project.
His conviction's a miscarriage of justice.
Benjay successfully persuaded the Texas Court of Appeals to issue the stay of execution.
We're looking at the video of the crime scene.
Remember those beer cans found at the crime scene? Benjay says DNA results from the cans were never introduced in the trial. He says Rodney's DNA was not on them.
You had a very exculpatory DNA report that said 2 police officers and Stacey couldn't be excluded from this beer can. Now, subsequent DNA testing of that beer can actually excluded Stacey.
Jimmy Fennell was never charged in connection with Stacey's murder. And for now, Rodney remains on death row until the courts sort all this out. But the main question may be impossible to answer. If Rodney didn't kill Stacy, then who did?
If you think Rodney Reed is innocent, then you take him home. Around your family, your daughter, your mother, your sister. If you think he's innocent, be willing to take him home with you.
Jimmy Finnell is expected to be released from prison by 2018. You can be sure that Crime Watch Daily will be there to ask him the tough questions about the death of Stacy Stites.